Hello, members of the Art of Healthy, Authentic Relationships. I am just popping in here today to talk about a topic that I see come up in this group a lot, and that is infidelity. Many of you are recovering from infidelity or trying to restore a relationship that has been impacted by infidelity, and you're struggling with that, or you might have a partner who has a history of infidelity and that's making it hard in your current relationship. You might even have some damaged self-esteem from a previous relationship where there's infidelity. It shows up in all kinds of different ways. And I think that there's really three main things. I mean, it's clear that it's a very damaging thing to experience, and it's really devastating, and there's a lot of negative things that come from it. But there's three things I want to just kind of hone in on today. I want to talk a little bit about what are the biggest problems that result from an affair outside of the marriage. And this could include an emotional affair. And then I want to talk about what the opportunity can be, because there actually is an opportunity, if the circumstances are right, to be able to leverage that and create something better than what you had before. And what has to happen for that crisis to be able to turn into an opportunity. So what are the conditions that you have to have met? What are the things that you need to do to be able to increase your chances of being able to recover and not let that be the death of your relationship, because it doesn't have to be. A lot of people say, well, if my spouse cheated on me, that would be the end of it. I just know that would be over. And we might have a partner who says the same thing. And when push comes to shove and the opportunity, when the chance actually comes to actually have to face that situation, you could be surprised. Sometimes there's a lot to fight for, and it's not as clear cut as it might first seem when you're not in the situation. So first, let's talk about what are the biggest problems that result from an affair. The first one is that there's damaged self-esteem, right? So people in a relationship that have been betrayed, they tend to internalize it or feel inadequate and wonder why their partner chose someone else over them. That's often the question, is like, why? What did I not have? Why was this other person more compelling? What is wrong with me, right? So the self-esteem takes a real hit in any kind of recovery from an affair. The other thing is anger. So even if you've gotten to the point of, I want to forgive this person, we're moving on, this person has made amends, I just can't get past my anger, I can't get past thinking about it, and I don't really want to forgive them, because if I do, then it's like saying that it's okay, right? So there's that anger and resentment and not letting them want to get away with anything, but at the same time, not wanting to give up on the relationship. So that's a real thorn in people's sides, is anger. And then the third thing is lack of trust. Obviously, that's the biggest thing, is that there's a lot of hypervigilance that comes out of, like, if you're the betrayed person, you're going to probably be hypervigilant and looking for evidence, looking for danger. Who's he talking to? Wanting to read through people's emails, ruminating, obsessing in the form of comparison, imagining or replaying events, and looking for things that would indicate that infidelity is happening again. And that kind of suspicion is completely justified, but it also can be the thing that prevents a couple from ever being able to recover from it. And there is a way to restore trust. So we'll get into that in a little bit. The first thing I just want to share is that if you are in a relationship where your partner was the betrayer and you're the betrayed person, and you are working on recovery and they're making amends, and they want the relationship to work and they want to recover from it, this can be an opportunity. Now, if the person is still insisting on being with their affair partner and they've got one foot out the door, then that's not really the case for you if that's your situation. But there is an opportunity if both people are saying, yes, this is horrible. However, we are both willing to recommit 100% to each other and see if we can come out the other side. In that case, the opportunity is that you can actually create a better relationship than what you had before. So it's not just about going back to what you had before. It's about creating something new. So the relationship literally has to be destroyed in a way, and it already has been mostly, but even more than that, what used to be your safe haven in your communication also has to be deconstructed in order for you to put things back together differently and in a better way. So there's really no way around that. There's no way around, looking at it as destruction is necessary before reconstruction. And in the reconstruction, there's an opportunity to build a stronger foundation than the one that you had before. So I've worked with people where they have the best relationship that they've ever had following an affair. It's like marriage 2.0. They will say that never in their relationship have they been as happy or close or connected. That doesn't mean there aren't still difficult moments in remembering, or that there's still not a wound there beneath the surface, but that the level of intimacy and the standards of communication have gone up really high after the affair because they've had to work so hard to rebuild it. So first, I just want to restore hope that that is possible, and that it's definitely something worth considering if you feel like leaving is not an option and you have too much to fight for. So the question then is, what has to happen? How do you know if you are in the kind of situation where this crisis of infidelity can actually become an opportunity for growth and improvement? And the first thing that has to be in place is a willingness to have healing conversations. So that's the ability to talk about the feelings that crop up in the cheated on partner without that pressure to just let it go. Sometimes the betrayer really wants to just not think about it anymore and doesn't want to look back, wants to move on, wants to redeem themselves, wants to do things differently. So talking about it feels like going backwards and staying stuck. But in fact, and there is a point where that does occur, but in the beginning, especially in the first 6 months or up to a year, there have to be a certain number or a certain measure of healing conversations that occur. So, and this is about honoring yourself by communicating your feelings. If you've been the one that has been betrayed, you have to honor yourself by communicating your feelings and not feel like the condition upon which you can restore the relationship is for you to stuff your feelings. That's not going to work. You actually do have to assert yourself enough to honor your feelings and say, I need to share how this impacted me, and ensuring that those feelings are heard and validated. Of course, it helps if you have a partner that is willing to do that. They might not know that that's what's required, but if you can explain that to them, and if you want to look into a great book, it's called, what is it called? State of Affairs by Esther Perel. She talks a lot about this and what you can do to recover from an affair. So if you have an affair partner, or I'm sorry, if you have a partner that had an affair, let them know that in order, a condition to recover, if they want to redeem themselves, if they want to restore the relationship, if they don't want you to leave, then one of the things that has to happen is talking about it and you really being able to be heard and validated. You also need to believe that your partner is truly remorseful for the betrayal and that they're not pinning it on you. Yes, there might have been dynamics that contributed to a disconnection. There might have been dynamics that you played part in that contributed to them wanting to go outside the marriage, but they are 100% accountable for their actions, and they have to be willing to do that and take that accountability. If you've been cheated on, also need to be able to communicate what you do need for repair. So oftentimes a person who's had an affair, like I said, they want to move on, and they want to talk a lot about the deficits that were in place in the relationship before the affair occurred. And that can cause a lot of problems because the betrayed person will feel like the betrayer is just trying to justify his or her actions. And then you end up fighting about that, and you don't end up healing, and you just keep the fighting cycle going. Now, just to be clear, healing conversations are not talking about everything. So there are some parameters, okay? Sharing your feelings is not the same thing as attacking your partner. It's not the same thing as blaming. And so you really want to avoid you statements and focus on what's going on inside of you. Dr. Gottman talks a lot about this and the importance of knowing the difference between complaining and criticism. There is a way to complain in a healthy manner and to state a positive need. So if you are sharing your feelings, it's important to say, when this occurred, or when I think of this, I feel this, and it's an emotion. It's not when I think of this, I feel like you're a selfish jerk, because that's still a you statement embedded in an I statement. It really needs to be an emotion word, and owning your emotion and the willingness to be vulnerable. And then if you have a partner that's able to receive that vulnerability without getting triggered or defensive, you're going to be able to heal. You're going to be able to at least start that healing process. So stating a need in a positive way, what I mean by that is, instead of saying something like, how could you do this to me? It would be, I need to be able to know what's different, or I need to be able to have access to your phone for a while in order to feel like I can trust you. You know, to be able to actually say what you need, as opposed to pointing out what is wrong or what you don't like. The other thing that has to be in place in order to recover from an affair is forgiveness. And that means not only forgiveness of your partner who cheated on you, if you're the betrayed person, but also forgiveness of yourself. So this isn't about condoning what they've done. It's just not using the past to filter the present. That's really what forgiveness is. And when I say forgiving yourself too, I mean not beating yourself up over not noticing or not knowing, or how could I have been so foolish? How could I not have known? Because there's such a hit to your sense of reality. If you had no idea and you were really surprised, you will wonder if you can trust any of your perceptions, and you will maybe have difficult time forgiving yourself for thinking things were okay when they really weren't. Also, it's important to forgive yourself if you did kind of think something was going on and you didn't listen to that inner voice. Maybe there was a part of you that wasn't totally surprised when you found out, because on some level you knew, but you didn't listen to that inner voice, or you didn't listen to other people. You have to forgive yourself too, in addition to your partner. Another thing that has to happen in recovery for an affair is, or recovery from an affair, is that you have to have a true understanding of what actually happened. What was the breakdown? What led to it? What was going on inside the mind of the person? Was it that they felt emasculated in the relationship and they needed validation, or to be mirrored back to themselves in a really positive light through somebody else, and it was just a self-esteem thing? Was it intimacy that they weren't getting? Was it a place that they could be where they didn't feel like things were really negative, or that there was criticism in the relationship? You have to really look at what led to it and have an honest conversation and be able to hear the truth about that. What led to the breakdown? An affair is oftentimes the symptom of something else. That doesn't ever mean it's your fault if your partner cheats on you. It just means that it's a symptom of a dynamic, and your partner failed to be able to identify it, or to be able to come to you and to be able to talk about it before taking this kind of action to betray. There also has to be new rules and new levels of transparency in the recovery process. So you're honoring yourself and holding your partner accountable by communicating what you need to repair. And I mentioned that already, but does that mean for you, does that mean blocking the affair partner? I personally believe that the affair partner needs to be blocked for there to be healing. Okay. If your partner is still trying to be friends with the affair partner, that's really not going to create an environment that's conducive to trust. It's a slippery slope. It's not going to breed safety in the relationship. But you can talk about that and see, what do you need? Do you need your partner to completely block from Facebook and delete any kind of possibility for contact from this affair partner? Does it mean access to their phone for a period of time, or their email? Does it mean relocating to another office and no longer working with this person? If this was a workmate or a colleague where there's a lot of frequent contact. And I've seen couples do that, where they will relocate or they will find a different job so that they can not have to be around the person that is the threat to rebuilding trust. And in terms of reestablishing transparency, or having new rules of transparency in the relationship, it's important to hear the full story of what happened. It's important to know the events. It's important to know, to really have an open, honest conversation. What exactly happened, even if it's hard to hear. But with that, I want to say that there's still a distinction between the type of information that you're going to be getting that will be helpful. There's unhelpful information and there's helpful information. So it's best to avoid questions regarding specific sexual behaviors, for example. It's one thing to say, did you sleep with them? And to get a yes on that. But it's a whole nother thing to want to know the details. Going and ruminating on those details and having that mental picture is actually not helpful. And so sometimes the person who betrayed will want to set a limit on sharing that, and that will feel like, oh, they're not telling me everything. But it's not that. It's that it's not going to be helpful to know all of the nitty-gritty. So you've got to keep that in mind. But all other questions should be answered openly and honestly. You do not want to have a situation in which you find out the whole story, or you think you found out the whole story, and then a few weeks later you find out another piece of information that they didn't tell you. That is going to make it so much worse. So in the period of time where you're really getting to the heart of the matter and you're getting the information and your partner's telling you everything, make sure to let them know this is the time to tell me absolutely everything, because it will be more damaging if you omit anything and I find out later. A lot of times a betrayer will try to soften the blow by hiding details of the affair. But then that just runs the risk of creating a second betrayal. Like I said, when the details are found out at a later time, and I would say 75% of the time, that's what happens. So please, if you are the betraying person, do not try to soften the blow by omitting details, events, incidences. You don't have to share the nitty-gritty sexual details, but if we're talking about a trip you took with the affair partner to Florida, don't omit that, thinking that that's not really going to make a difference, because it will when they find out. That will be another betrayal. So those are essentially the things you need to have in place in order to restore trust in the relationship. Now, of course, the particulars of how that's going to look in your relationship is going to depend on your dynamics, your history, your personality, your individual circumstances, and the nuances of the way that you relate to each other. But more or less, those are the ground rules for being able to restore trust in the relationship. So if you have any questions about this and you're wanting to recover from an affair in your relationship and you're both on board with staying together, maybe both of you aren't on board with getting support around it, but if one of you is on board with getting support, but you're both on board with recovering from the affair, then reach out to me and I can talk to you about some more details and specifics about what that could look like, and answer any questions you have, and give an opportunity for you to tell me what your story is around this and where you're at. My intention is to support you and the healing process, because I've seen it happen so many times where couples that really could have made it just didn't have the right tools, and they ended up having to break up, and it was not what either of them wanted. So that's it for this topic. I will be posting in here again in the next week or so. Please comment with any questions that you have below this video in the thread. Let me know what your questions are, and I will be sure to answer them. Thank you so much, and until next time.